Back to the book. Captain Tony Nadal, Alpha Company, was the first man out of the creek bed, leading 1st Platoon in the assault. He recalls, "We moved about 50 yards when we ran into the enemy force which had come down the mountain. I presume they were preparing to launch their attack about the time we launched ours. The fighting quickly became very vicious at close range. We took many casualties. Lieutenant Wayne Johnson, the 1st Platoon leader, was hit. At least 3 other squad leaders were also hit, 2 of them killed. One while going forward in an attempt to rescue one of his soldiers against direct orders." Against direct orders. I'm going out to get my buddy. Tony Nadal had ordered his men to fix bayonets for the attack. Bill Beck, firing a burst from his M60 machine gun to his right front, was transfixed by what he saw just forward. A tall, thin sergeant bayoneting a North Vietnamese in the chest. It was just like practiced against the straw dummies. Forward, thrust, pull out, move on. 1, 2, 3. Captain Tony Nadal had 4 men in his command group as he charged into the brush. 2 radio operators, Sergeant Jack Gell and a 25-year-old native New Yorker, and Specialist Spec 4 John Clark of Michigan, plus the company's artillery forwarded observer, Lieutenant Timothy M. Blake, 24, from Charleston, West Virginia, and Blake's recon sergeant, Sergeant Floyd L. Reed, Jr., 27 years old, of Heth, Arkansas. As they moved up, Nadal had the radio handset to his ear. A burst of enemy machine gun fire swept across the group. Sergeant Gell was hit and dropped without a sound. Nadal kept moving until the long black cord pulled back on him. He was looking around to see what was wrong. The same burst that killed Sergeant Gell had also killed Lieutenant Blake and struck Sergeant Reed, who died shortly thereafter. Sergeant Sam Holman, Sergeant Sam Holman Jr., a native Pennsylvanian, knelt beside his mortally wounded buddy Jack Gell and heard him gasp, "Tell my wife I love her." Tony Nadal had no time to mourn Jack Gell, a man he greatly respected. Too many other lives were in his hands. On the right flank of the Bravo line, Lieutenant Deal was now rolling around on the ground, desperately trying to dodge a valley of machine gun slugs cutting through the grass all around him. Suddenly, 25 yards away, Deal saw an American get up and charge forward while everyone around him was flat on his belly. Says Deal, "I saw him throw a grenade behind an anthill and empty his weapon into it. Then he fell to his knees. I said to myself, please get up, don't be hurt. I didn't know who it was. I couldn't make out the form. There was so much battlefield haze, dust, and smoke." It was Lieutenant Joe Marm. He had spotted an enemy machine gun dug into a big termite hill. It was chewing up both Bravo Company platoons. After failing to knock it out with a law rocket and a grenade and a thrown grenade, he decided to deal with it directly. He charged through the fire, tossed a hand grenade behind the hill, and then cleaned up the survivors with his M16 rifle. The following day, Lieutenant Al Devaney found a dead North Vietnamese officer and 11 enemy soldiers sprawled behind that termite mound. Says Deal, "Joe Marm saved my life and the lives of many others." Lieutenant Marm staggered back to his position with a bullet wound to his jaw and neck. He joined a growing stream of walking wounded flowing back toward the battalion aid station. Sergeant Keaton treated Marm's wound, and one of Bruce Crandell's Hueys evacuated him to the rear. Within days, Lieutenant Joe Marm was recuperating at Valley Forge Army Hospital near his home in Pennsylvania. In December of 1966, Joe Marm reported to the Pentagon, where the Secretary of the Army, acting on behalf of President Lyndon Johnson, presented him with the Medal of Honor, the nation's highest award for valor.